everywhere I would go in Chattanooga, beginning with the bellboy at the hotel, they would say, "Oh," said, "I know Bobby Hoppe," said, "he's a hell of a nice guy." And everybody, and I don't think all these people knew Bobby Hoppe, but everywhere I would go, and every person that I would meet, they would say, "We for Bobby." But I thought that was a very extraordinary situation. But every person that knew him, apparently, or knew of him, he touched a lot of people. I mean, Bobby was quick on the uptake. He was, as you know, was extremely bright and knew exactly what he was doing and what he had done. So preparing him wasn't that difficult, I don't think. Number one, the easiest thing to do in preparing someone, if a defendant is going to testify, you've got to impress upon them the proposition that they've got to be truthful. And you know, it's easy as hell to tell something if you're telling the truth. Well, I thought it was appropriate for him to testify because I find historically, in a case like this, a jury wants to hear, in a murder case, he wants to hear the defendant personally say what happened and why it happened. The ruling that I thought that was incorrect, then, and that I am equally convinced now that it was an incorrect ruling, is the one dealing with what we call the clergyman penitent exception. It was obvious to me, and I think virtually uncontradicted, that when Bobby sought out the minister after the killing, it was for the purpose of receiving some spiritual comfort, which is the sole basis of the clergyman penitent exception, and that was just a wrong ruling. The judge made an error there. Well, there's an old story, you know. I say an old story that's often told by criminal defense lawyers with reference to murder cases, and particularly a case of this sort involving the same factual scenario. And it goes something like this. The jury asked themselves in the jury room, did the deceased deserve to be killed? And if the answer to that question is yes, then they move on to the last question, the ultimate question, did the right person kill him? And if the answer to that is yes, more often than not, it results in a not guilty verdict. And I know we're dealing with human life, but what happened was generally understandable. Well, I guess to some extent you're always surprised by a hung jury. You know, you never predict a hung jury. I thought that it was a case that cried out for an acquittal, but I recognized, given the nature of the case and the background of the case and the age of the case, if I had been asked in advance what effect would a hung jury have on the future of Bobby Hoppe, I would say, if there is a hung jury, this case would never be tried again. I mean, this case would be dismissed. So overall, it was tantamount to the same thing, a successful conclusion. I have tried in excess of 250 murder cases. I quit keeping up with them at that time. Yeah, and I've tried cases in 37 states. Every morning I get up and I go to work and I have to kick somebody's ass that needs it.